NMH at 1 highlights the news making waves ranging from current affairs, community stories, sports and economic news. Here are the news headlines. Repo Rate remains unchanged, Bank of Namibia announces. Ongwediva Mayor re-elected for the 4th time. Fishrot accused plead for release to allow them to prepare for their master defense. I am Diana Master, Midday News Update coming right up. The Bank of Namibia has decided to keep the repo rate unchanged at 7.75%, Central Bank Governor Johannes Gavagab announced this morning. That means the prime lending rates for local commercial banks will remain at 11.50%. Philippa Susuku was there.
The dollar and the South African rand, while supporting the domestic economy, the MPC decided to keep the rate unchanged at 7.75%. This decision was taken following a comprehensive review of domestic, regional and global economic developments. Let us look at the domestic developments that influence this decision. Domestic economic activity expanded further during the first 10 months of 2023. Inflation edged up while private sector credit extension growth remained weak. The merchandise trade deficit continued to improve and the stock of international reserves remained sufficient to support the currency peg and meet the country's international financial obligations. Domestic economic activity expanded further during the first 10 months of 2023.
Visual News highlights local stories from across Namibia right after the break. Stay with NMH at 1.
Welcome to Active Kids, a daily TV show that sparks creativity, learning, and fun for young minds. With exciting activities and lessons, Active Kids inspires curiosity and a love for learning.
New face to the 15.
The perfect mix of play and education. Don't miss out on the fun. Tune into Active Kids on NTV every weekday at 10 o'clock and let the adventure begin.
Getting into today's visual news clips, Tara Shaliefu was re-elected for the 4th time as the mayor of Ongwediva and will lead for a further 12 months. SWAPO councillor Ulalia Katonyala retained her position as deputy mayor of the town. Fabian George has been appointed as chairperson of the management committee. Naomi Amutenu from SWAPO and Jonah Halau from IPC remain members of the management committee. Otili Haitota IPC and Matthews Tihayo IPC are ordinary members. Chiemo Haidula has more.
Re-elected Ongwediva Town Mayor Tara Shaliefu said he is willing to get fired, fighting for the service delivery for the residents of the town. Shaliefu was re-elected last week for the 4th time as the mayor of Ongwediva and will lead for a further 12 months.
Well, may I take this opportunity to wish all the residents of Ongwediva Town a Merry Christmas and a Happy 2024. I know this is a festive season and many people will be coming to the north. May I also make use of this opportunity to warn and request all road users to speed with consciousness and make sure that speed kills. Therefore, let's make sure that when you are speeding, we are not under the influence of alcohol. And I really want us to be all conscious and take care of other fellow road users. I wish you all the best and let's keep health and keep the Ongwediva town clean. All the best. I love you all. Thank you.
SWAPO councillor Ulalia Katonyala also retained her position as deputy mayor of the town. Fabian George has been appointed as chairperson of the management committee. Naomi Amthenu of SWAPO Party and Yona Helau of IPC remain members of the management committee. Otilia Haitota of APC and Matthews Tiaho of APC are ordinary members.
Namibian Sun leads us into the newspaper review segment on the other side of this commercial break.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. We now take a look at what the lead stories are in Namibia's daily newspapers. Starting us off on the Namibian Sun front page, 3 Fishrot accused persons have pleaded with the Windhoek High Court to release them in order to allow them adequate opportunity to prepare their master defense against charges that could see them being locked up for a long time. One of them, former Justice Minister Saki Shangala, said the Namibian judiciary system has financially stripped him and his co-accused in order to make sure they'll not be in a position to defend themselves adequately. Prior to the shocking emergence of the Fishrot bribery scandal in the twilight of 2019, which got him and 9 others arrested, Shangala was a lawmaker and before that, chairperson of the Law Reform and Development Commission. Oshana Governor Alia Irimari has urged Namibian men to stand together and teach others how to embody positive masculinity with the goal of reducing cases of sexual gender-based violence in Namibia. Irimari was speaking at the recently held third men's conference in Ondangwa, held under the theme Zero Male Suicide, Promoting Positive Masculinity. He emphasized the importance of men coming together to celebrate their strengths, resilience and commitment to improving society. Irimari highlighted that misconceptions about masculinity in Namibia have resulted in severe consequences, including suicide, spousal killings, and violence, often fatal between men. Moving over to the front page of the Republican, the informal settlement Okahanja Park, with its thousands of corrugated iron houses, is undergoing a transformation, or at least for now, a small part on the outskirts. The 22 houses have already been finished, are located along Hereford Street, the old Brakwater Road. The man behind the transformation is local artist Ndako Ngipandulwa. On the paper's page 2, a report on the cause of death in the country by the Namibia Statistics Agency shows that the country's death rate has risen over a 5-year period. The number of deaths between 2018 to 2021 increased from 18,939 to 24,220. In general, more deaths were recorded among men than women, as well as infants and the elderly. On its front page, the Allgemeine Zeitung focuses on the COP28 issues and brings a report that places Africa's apparent rush for quick wealth through the exploration and extraction of oil into context by reflecting on the fact that the rest of the world moves on. While Africa continues to chase the supposed quick riches that a late gas and oil boom seems to promise, something that is driven by Ni Ayuk, the executive chairman of the African Energy Chamber, in no uncertain terms, the head of the International Energy Agency, Fatih Birol, in a program broadcast by the BBC, recognizes trends that will make the gas and oil industry unprofitable, if not redundant. According to Birol, fossil fuels will be on the decline by 2030 at the latest, while renewable energies will be on the rise. On its page 3, the Allgemeine Zeitung brings an update of the former Justice Minister Saki Shangala, who together with his 2 co-accused James Hatuikulipi and Pia Songatululo appeared in court yesterday. The 3 Fishrot accused persons have pleaded with the Windhoek High Court to release them in order to allow them adequate opportunity to prepare what Shangala termed master defense against charges that could see them being locked up for a long time. Shangala said the Namibian judiciary system has financially stripped him and his co-accused in order to make sure they will not be in a position to defend themselves adequately. That's it for the first half of our newspaper review segment. We get into the second half right after this.
To another exciting episode of Irongo Top. We bring jou
Is die weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis julle mondelik gaan byt.
Continuing right along with our newspaper review segment, according to the Namibian newspaper, the Namibian presidency has refused to provide the flight tickets of the 4 presidential children and grandson who travelled to Dubai for the 28th Conference of the Parties, also known as COP28. President Hage Geingob and First Lady Monica Geingob are facing backlash over travelling with their 4 children and grandson to COP28, which started on the 27th of November and will run until the 10th of December. The Namibia Revenue Agency Commissioner Sam Shivute has refuted claims suggesting NAMRA is engaged in secret talks with state-owned enterprises and specific politicians to waive their tax liabilities. Activist Joba Mpanda wrote to NAMRA in a letter dated 3 December seeking clarification on the issue. Shivute, when speaking to the Namibian, said the law does not allow for SOEs tax write-offs. Moving over to the front page of the New Era, Namibia's death rate has increased over the years, with the leading cause of death in Namibia being hypertensive diseases at 8.8% in 2020, while COVID-19 at 18.6% was the leading cause of death in 2021. This was revealed by the Namibia Statistics Agency during the launch of the second series of the Mortality and Causes of Death report yesterday. Statistician General Alex Chimwafeni said diarrheal diseases were ranked as the #1 leading cause of death for children under 5 in 2020, constituting 11.9% and 11.3% in 2021. The leading cause of death for children aged 5 to 14 in 2020 and 2021 decreased from 13.2% to 11.1%. The Windhoek Country Club and Resorts Management has turned around the fortunes of the accommodation establishment by increasing overall revenue by almost 70 million Namibian dollars. This in turn enabled the WCCR to generate over 15 million Namibian dollars in profit and to hand over a dividend check of 20 million Namibian dollars to government. On Monday, WCCR Board of Directors Chairperson Ivan Simata handed over the dividend check to Deputy Executive Director in the Finance and Public Enterprises Ministry, Louis Shuhameni. Moving over to Market Watch, Namibia's trade deficit worsened to 4.5 billion Namibian dollars in October compared to a deficit of 3.3 billion Namibian dollars and 2.2 billion Namibian dollars recorded in September 2023 and October 2022 respectively, and this is according to the Namibia Statistics Agency. Petroleum oils contributed the most to the trade deficit, recording an import bill of 1.9 billion Namibian dollars and a deficit of 1.3 billion Namibian dollars. Namibia's total import bill stood at 11.3 billion Namibian dollars in October, a slight increase when compared to 11.1 billion Namibian dollars registered in September. In October 2022, the domestic import bill stood at 10.5 billion Namibian dollars. Botswana plans to become self-sufficient in food and cut its import bill, and to uphold this, the country will expand restrictions on imports of some fresh produce. More on this after the break.
We are so excited to be kickstarting your morning with entertainment. Everything was happening during this past weekend.
Yes.
Exciting news.
Wow, no, she was killing it already.
In my opinion, I don't see anything wrong with him serving the full term.
As well as keeping you informed on the issues that you need to know happening in and around our country.
In today's economic news, Botswana said on Monday it would extend and expand restrictions on imports of some fresh produce as it tries to become self-sufficient in food and cut its import bill. The ban on imports of tomatoes, potatoes, onions and other produce, which has angered farmers in neighboring South Africa and was due to expire at the end of December, would now run until the end of 2025, the Agriculture Ministry said. The number of restricted items would also double to 32 from July next year, the ministry added. The wait until July would act as a grace period to give Botswana's farmers some time to plant so that local produce can be ready, it said. The drought-prone country's agricultural sector is relatively small, accounting for about 5% of economic output, with local farmers squeezed by cheaper imports from South Africa. South Africa supplied about 80% of the country's food before a 2-year ban was initially implemented from January 2022. In a State of the Nation address last month, Botswana's President Mokgweetsi Masisi said the import ban had slashed the country's fresh produce import bill by 71%. Botswana says it is protecting nascent industries, but South African farmers have said the ban violates the Southern Africa Customs Union Agreement. We'll now take a look at the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar trades at 23.86 to the British pound, 20.46 to the euro, 18.96 to the US dollar, and 2 Namibian dollars and 65 cents buys you 1 Chinese yuan. Capricorn Investment Group Limited stocks took a dip of 0.10%, while the rest of the selected NSX stock closing prices maintained. Local index and overall index closed both on a downturn of 0.01% and 1.50% respectively. Looking at commodities, gold and copper took an upturn of 0.17% and 0.66% respectively, while platinum and Brent crude oil took dips of 0.07% and 0.82% respectively. Now, after the break, we get into the story of the first survivor out of dozens of miners trapped 5 days ago by a mudslide at an open-pit copper mine in Zambia has been rescued. News from the African continent after the break.
Namibians are still safe.
Everywhere else, the Supreme Court said we are not going to rely on foreign judgments.
By all means, we try to not make journalists public figures, but at the end of the day, they are.
Very good evening. My name is Ongwediva, your host.
With their Protestant offsprings.
But the implementation, like she's saying, is another thing.
We now expand beyond Namibia's borders to give you the latest news from the African continent here on NMH at 1. The first survivor out of dozens of miners trapped 5 days ago by a mudslide at an open-pit copper mine in Zambia has been rescued. The 49-year-old man was pulled out from the mine on Tuesday night and is undergoing treatment, Zambia's Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit said on Wednesday. The successful rescue comes just hours after Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema said he was still hopeful that the miners are still alive. The accident happened at Seseli Mine in Chingola, about 400 kilometers northwest of the capital Lusaka, after miners were trapped in 3 locations following heavy rains in the area. We should not yet mourn those trapped people because God is a God of wonders. We will find some of our people alive down here, Hichilema told a gathering of thousands of people, including families of the trapped miners in Chingola on Tuesday. The response team also recovered 1 body, raising the confirmed death toll to 8. It remains unclear how many miners were trapped, but Mines Minister Paul Kabuswe said on Monday that 25 families had so far come forward to claim missing relatives who were working when the accident happened. Rescue efforts are continuing. President Hichilema dismissed reports that the miners were illegally working at the site, adding that his government would ensure safe mining practices to prevent future tragic accidents. The ANC has little chance of success in the Constitutional Court, where it intends to contest several court orders compelling it to pay the 102 million rand debt plus interest and costs it owes to Ezulweni Investments. This is according to legal expert Mpumelelo Zikalala, who said the decision by the highest court in the land was likely to follow the same trajectory as previous rulings made by lower courts, which all ruled in favor of Ezulweni. The small KwaZulu-Natal-based company printed election banners and other campaign material featuring President Cyril Ramaphosa, which helped clinch a win for the party in 2019 elections. Ezulweni has now secured 4 attachment orders against the ANC. Its owners incurred debt to quickly produce the party's banners before the 2019 election, but have never received payment, while the election material gathers dust in storage. To date, 3 courts have ruled that Ezulweni Investments had a binding contract with the ANC and that the party owes millions of rands for the supply of election banners ahead of the May 2019 general elections. Asked if the ANC had any merit in heading to the Constitutional Court, Zikalala said the party would have to make a special application to bring new evidence. After the break, we bring you news from the rest of the globe. Stay tuned.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouth-watering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
Starting off our international news this afternoon, the U.S. on Tuesday began imposing visa bans on people involved in violence in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, Washington officials said, after several appeals for Israel to do more to prevent violence by Jewish settlers. A new State Department visa restriction policy targets individuals believed to have been involved in undermining peace, security, or stability in the West Bank, including through committing acts of violence or taking other actions that unduly restrict civilians' access to essential services and basic necessities, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said in a statement. President Joe Biden and other senior U.S. officials have warned repeatedly that Israel must act to stop violence by Israeli settlers against Palestinians in the West Bank. Attacks there have surged in recent months as Jewish settlements have expanded and then spiked again since the October 7 Hamas attacks on Israel. Blinken made clear to Israeli officials during a visit last week that they need to do more to stop extremist violence against Palestinians and hold those responsible for it accountable. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller told reporters in a press briefing after the announcement. The first bans under the new policy would be imposed on Tuesday, and more designations will be made in the upcoming days, Miller said. We expect ultimately for this action to impact dozens of individuals and potentially their family members, Miller said, adding that any Israeli with an existing U.S. visa who was targeted would be notified that their visa was revoked. In our next story, teenagers' mathematics and reading skills are in an unprecedented decline across dozens of countries, and COVID school closures are only partly to be blamed, the OECD said on Tuesday in its latest survey of global learning standards. The Paris-based Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development said it had seen some of the steepest drops in performance since 2000, when it began its usually triennial tests of 15-year-olds' reading, maths, and science skills. Nearly 700,000 youths took the 2-hour test last year in the OECD's 38 mostly developed country members and 44 non-members for the latest study, closely watched by the policymakers as the largest international comparison of education performance. Compared to when the tests were last conducted in 2018, reading performance fell by 10 points on average in OECD countries and by 15 points in mathematics, a loss equivalent to 3/4 of a year's worth of learning. News from the world of sport follows right after this break.
Welcome to Active Kids, a daily TV show that sparks creativity, learning, and fun for young minds. With exciting activities and lessons, Active Kids inspires curiosity and a love for learning.
New face to the
115.
The perfect mix of play and education. Don't miss out on the fun. Tune in to Active Kids on NTV every weekday at 10 o'clock and let the adventure begin.
We start off with local sports news and thereafter bring you international sports news. The Brave Gladiators of Namibia will be returning home as they are out of their Women Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers after a 1-0 win, but losing a 3-2 on aggregate against Ghana in Johannesburg, South Africa yesterday afternoon. Quality FC were crowned as the champions of the 2023 Futsal Premier League during the year-end prize-giving ceremony this week. The Namibian junior swimming team is in Mauritius, ready to compete in the 15th Africa Junior Swimming and Open Water Championship. The competition will start today and continue until the 10th of December. Namibia's Deb Marine Desert Jewels will face Zambia today at 4 p.m. in the 2023 Africa Netball Cup final in Gaborone, Botswana. The Namibians reached the final for the first time in their history on account of a superior goal difference compared to Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe only managed to beat Eswatini by 58-44 baskets on Monday, but needed to score a goal difference of at least 17. Today's match will be a thriller, with Namibia looking to start the match off strongly after they lost 52-42 against Zambia in the round-robin match. International sports news coming right up. Starting us off, Declan Rice's header deep in stoppage time sealed an enthralling 4-3 victory for Arsenal over Luton Town to send them 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League on Tuesday. AmaZulu FC will lock horns with Mamelodi Sundowns on Wednesday in a DStv Premiership encounter at the King Goodwill's Welitini Stadium in Durban. And Argentina captain Lionel Messi has been named Time Magazine's Athlete of the Year for 2023 after winning the Ballon d'Or for a record-extending 8th time and elevating the profile of the sport in the US with his move to Inter Miami. If you're just joining us, this is NMH at 1, and we'll get into the highlights from today's broadcast right after the break.
To another exciting episode of Top.
Please weer en vertel ook vir julle waar die vis julle moontlik kan byt.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host Jesse Jackson Kauraika. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
You're watching NMH at 1, and if you've just joined us, here are the news highlights from today's broadcast. The first survivor out of dozens of miners trapped 5 days ago by a mudslide at an open-pit copper mine in Zambia has been rescued. The US on Tuesday began imposing visa bans on people involved in violence in the Israeli-occupied West Bank, Washington officials said after several appeals for Israel to do more to prevent violence by Jewish settlers. Namibia's Marine Desert Jewels will face Zambia today at 4 p.m. in the 2023 Africa Netball Cup final in Gaborone, Botswana. Those have been your highlights. Remember to tune in every weekday at 1 p.m. to spend your lunch hour with NMH at 1, catching up on the latest news in Namibia and beyond. From me, Diana Master, I do wish you a lovely Wednesday ahead.